All right, welcome to All Sides of Kennebec. We are back in studio with Sean Karen.
And Jeremy Leza.
And we have our guest,
Ronda Snyder with Maine Journal News.
in the house tonight. So, this also was a last-minute podcast scheduling brought to you by
A shared studio.
Got to get that plug in there. So, definitely let's... I don't even know where to start. Where do you want to start? It's so many places we can start. Let's.
So, what got you into journaling,
Yeah.
into being a journalism?
Well, my
Journalist.
background is in the legal community and in administration of law firms. So, although I originally went to college to be an accountant, after 2 weeks I realized that wasn't going to happen, and I majored in English literature, and which was much more my speed. And then it just, I started working in a law firm. I kept moving up, and I ended up, my last job, I was a director of administration for a Boston law firm. So I like things to be correct. I like details. They're important to me. And
sounds like you like to dig too.
I'm really nosy. That's
That's
helps.
probably a requirement for the job.
I would imagine.
Well, you would think so, and that's one of the issues.
Or
and
should be.
One of the
Right.
reasons is that the corporate Maine media is just very uncurious. They'll just put out whatever statements are made by Dr. Shaw or the governor. They don't ask they don't question them.
Right.
They just repost whatever they're told. I don't do that.
Definitely not. And there's been a few stories that you've broken over the last, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years.
Well, here's a perfect example. When Charlotte Warren said straight white men are too emotional to be in politics, none of the local media covered her making that outrageous statement. We covered it at the beginning of July, and 3 weeks later, they finally had, because it was getting so much attention,
Right. A lot of traction.
the local media finally
Said something about
mentioned it. And because there was, I think it was a house order, or I can't remember. I think it was a house order asking for her reprimand or whatever. So finally,
Right.
they had.
I know there was quite a few protests too. They had one at the Capitol. They also had one in Hollowell. I believe Legacy 1160 offered for her to come on their show. I think they're still waiting for that invitation to be fulfilled. Last time I checked.
Well, she's termed out, so
Right.
she doesn't care.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think she cared in the beginning, but
I mean, if she was going to be reelected at some point, maybe she might care. But
really, do you think she may have cared? I really don't think she would have. Even if she could have run again.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's a hard one.
No, and that's just the double standard and hypocrisy that drives me nuts.
Oh, they have so much of it. I mean, Shelley Rudnicki, I remember I don't know if she still is, but I believe, I want to say it was once a week she was going to the governor's door and knocking on it, trying to get a meeting. I don't know if she ever got that meeting.
Was that about COVID?
I want to say it was about everything.
Oh.
It was more than just COVID. I know, I want to say there was a big ordeal when she brought a podcaster friend of hers up, and they had gone into the Capitol.
She's actually a journalist who
Yeah.
often appears on Tucker Carlson. It's just not some random
No,
person.
that's what I was going to get into. But yeah, she's definitely not a random person. I forget her name.
Naomi Wolf.
Thank you. And I did speak with her at the protest there, and she's a very smart woman.
And if I remember correctly, wasn't she a liberal at some point?
Yes.
I believe
Yeah.
so. But she went, her and Shelley had gone into the state house during COVID. I believe they could bring a constituent is how they ended up using it against her, because it wasn't really a constituent. It is a constituent. If they can donate money, it's a constituent. But anyways, yeah. So they had a huge ordeal about that, and there's just the whole double standard with all of that. It's definitely just shows how much need there is for independent media sources out there. And I think that's where Maine Journal News has hit it.
Well, I don't want to give away all our secrets for why we do a good job, because then, but I don't think local media would do that. You know, we have a personal touch with our people. We respond to every single message that people send us. They send us a lot of good story ideas, and they know that they have a voice.
Right.
Right.
The people have a voice with us, and it's not just the narrative.
Right. Yeah, I don't even think I don't even think the Morning Sentinel messages back on anything to anyone. I think it's just all.
Yeah, we answer every single
Okay.
message.
And you guys cover such a wide range of things.
I know it.
And admittedly, there's so much left-leaning liberal media in Maine,
Right.
and we admittedly lean right and conservative. But a lot of the things you'll see that I post is I just put the facts out there and let people make up their own minds.
Right.
Although sometimes I do it with a little bit of humor. The Kansas City Chiefs didn't like, my the way I reported their loss,
Uh-oh.
and they just went crazy on that post. They were, because I made a joke about Burroughs and McPherson finally putting an end to what's her name, Brittany. I can't think of her last name, and Jackson
sure.
Mahomes' reign of terror in the NFL this season.
Oh,
And they
didn't like that.
but
huh?
it's just kind of a humorous way to get information out there.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the meme game changed how news was delivered.
Yeah.
And you can still do it. I mean, obviously,
It has changed.
Some of it's serious,
Yeah.
but my page, my rules. I can make it funny if I want to.
Do
Right.
what I want.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that Cartman gif, riding the scooter. Respect my authority.
Yeah. Good. That's a good cartoon.
It is.
But because we do that, and because we have that personal touch, and people know that we care to cover the stories that they care about, and just, let's see, Maine Journal News is about a year and a half, and we get between 120 and 150,000 reach a month,
Wow.
That's quite a reach.
which is pretty good.
It's quite a reach being how long you guys have been at it.
Right.
And are we allowed to know how many people are working with Maine Journal News?
Well, we have quite a few Facebook editors and moderators.
Okay.
There are quite a few of them. I don't mind being, because I've already suffered cancel culture when and a lot of online harassment when I fought against LD 798. So I was already out there, and I knew what to expect. So I don't mind using my names. They go by
Right.
their
Right.
first names, because I wouldn't want that to
Yeah,
happen
I do
to
the
them.
same thing with the original Ross Perot. We usually they'll stick to just their first name if they post who's who. But
So 798, that was the law that passed about removing the exemptions from
The religious and philosophical
right
exemptions.
for children to go to school.
For vaccines. It also affected healthcare workers,
yeah,
which is why we're in the
it's
situation we're in
it's
now.
what laid the groundwork for where we're at, I think.
I actually have talked to multiple people that said that if they knew what they knew now back then they would have voted against it.
Well, people didn't listen to us. We told people that this would happen,
Oh, yeah.
and they the supporters of LD 798 would tell people they're crazy. They don't know
That
what
would
they're
never
talking. That's
happen.
never ever going to happen. We would
Yep.
never mandate a COVID vaccine or a vaccine you don't want.
There was a lot of words being put in those people's mouths, because I did do a couple man on the street casts of that some of those rallies they had, and it got a little wild with the way the mainstream media just shoots narratives that aren't true.
I was 100% against it. So
But
Well, the proponents of LD 798, the Maine Families for Vaccines, they knew that they had the media in their pocket. They mentioned it.
Right.
They had a private group, and they're saying, well, that's not going to be reported. The one side is not going to be, the yes on one is not going to be
Right.
reported in our papers.
Right.
It's, I mean, I want to say there's only the main papers, or the main stream media here in Maine. I believe there's only a couple owners, isn't there?
Reed Brower owns most of the print papers.
I was going to say, I know it's a very small, like limited, so, I mean.
The majority of them. And Bangor Daily News is.
That's why I feel that we need more independent sources. I mean, there's just one person is able to control the narrative, and that shouldn't be how it is.
Well, Dave's paper is independent. They're very, very good.
Yeah, I remember seeing he was there for one of the rallies that we did for the vaccine in Bangor.
And this is
Dave, one of the guys from Dave's paper, I think.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I want to say he may have done something. I think he stopped and talked to me with the RCV thing a while back, if I remember right. Jeez, been around for so long now. I feel old. But yeah, I mean, it's great to see independent sources popping up.
They're definitely not necessary to keep.
What's moving forward? What would you like to see deliver?
Well, yeah,
without giving anything away.
Well, I'm not going to give
course,
anything away, but
of course.
I'm pretty busy. I'm a selectman in my town. I have 14-year-old twins. I help my husband run his 3 business, and I do Maine Journal News. And the only
busy.
Yeah, well, except for my kids, and barely as a selectman, I don't make a lot of money with Maine Journal News. And what I really want to
definitely donate.
Yeah, what I really, I put in a lot of my hours
definitely
in work into it, but eventually I have been taken off a little time writing. I've been researching a little something about Dr. Shaw that should be out in the next couple of days that you guys will like.
Oh, stay tuned.
And but my writing, I have a problem with my wrist, so I had to buy dictation software.
Oh, yeah,
I had COVID. My husband bought another damn new business. So I haven't had a lot of time. And right now I have folks who have indicated they want to do some writing for us, but haven't followed through. So
and then the venting process is a little difficult too.
I have to be really
Yeah,
careful about
that's
that
what I
because
run
people
into.
try to feed false stories and make things up. And
it's a shame that you can't just trust people on their word.
oh no,
and we ran into that when we first started out with the original Ross Pro, and we got about 9 editors that post links to sources. Because what we try to do is we pull in thousands of news sources and try to put them all in one place, one great place, so that you can find what you're looking for in one spot. But yeah, we have 9 people that do that, and in the beginning, I want to say we had 13 or 14, and there was a few bad apples that definitely got us in trouble with Facebook, but yeah, it was a nightmare road to go down. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, the editors and moderators that I have right now are people that I've known for a while.
Yeah, I think that would probably be the best way to go.
And my old high school friend Jack will write a hunting article, hunting and fishing. He's a hunting and fishing guide.
Oh, awesome!
Nice.
So he'll write something here and there. COVID was just hard on a lot of folks.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, you alone, Jeremy, had a rough time with COVID, and
I had COVID twice.
well, that and with your business.
Yeah,
the
my
closing.
Business, yeah, I owned the Play Factory, me and my girlfriend in Waterville, and that had to close down too.
My kids used to play there when they were little.
Kylie loved it.
Yeah,
I think I still actually have. I think I've got like a $10 gift card to you guys still that we never redeemed. I think it's pinned on my right where my computer desk is on the board there. But
yeah, it was a shame. It was a fun business. It was good for kids to come and parents to come and just let their kids go wild. But
and there's not very many places. I mean, we got North Street. I forget what that place is called, but they got a jump factory or something over there now.
The
Playland or something.
No, you're talking about the Augusta
No,
Discovery Museum.
No, right over here on North Street in Waterville.
Right. It used to be the Augusta
I
Discovery Museum,
gotcha.
but they
I
changed
gotcha.
when they moved from Augusta to Waterville.
Okay.
I think it's called the Discovery Museum now.
Okay. I gotcha.
I think someone Siri just dinged.
Siri. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy the contending with cancel culture. I mean, just the way people attack you.
Well,
I mean,
I couldn't. Well, I was used to it from the LD 798, but what really kind of blew my mind is the attacks on my husband's businesses. You know, and I would say our business because what's his is mine and what's mine is mine.
You're married, so.
Right, but he owns them.
Yep.
But they would try to hurt me
Through him.
That's so horrible. I mean, we contended with that here in Waterville with the recall.
And you know how they say opposites attract? He's really, really nice compared to me.
I've been told that. I know what that's like. So
Yeah, he's, you know, he wouldn't say, he's just a super, super nice guy. And, you know, he's like, don't get my business in trouble. I go, I'm not doing it. The crazy people are doing it.
right.
And I've actually had one person was so outrageous with some of the things that they did, including doxing information about my minor children and posting photos that they found of them online.
That's horrible.
That's super creepy.
The FBI had stepped in and determined that what they were doing was illegal.
Good.
And helped out with that.
Yeah, I've had two very not nice people show up on my front door. Luckily, it didn't. They kept it civil, but you could tell it was not geared very nicely. But I'm glad it stayed civil.
Well, do you want to hear a happy karma story?
Yes.
We had a store but my husband, had a store in Portland, and some social justice warrior made up things that I never said about wanting to shoot Black Lives Matter protesters.
What?
Just because I carry a gun everywhere I go.
I don't blame you.
So she made up this big lie, and the proponents of LD 798 kept pushing that lie, and just made up
It's
ridiculous
crazy.
things.
It's crazy how these people jump in
here's
and
the
write
good
these
karma.
narratives.
So that was in June 2020. So we were selling the store, and we took it off the market. Well, we'll just wait for this to blow over. So then in January, when we put it back on, in the meantime, we had gotten a state liquor license, which means that we made $300,000 or $400,000 because of that, and that's good karma.
Yeah, that's funny. That's awesome.
So they were trying to destroy us.
And it became better.
It was much better.
So you guys still sell alcohol? You said, or you guys?
My husband owns Twins Country Store in Augusta, best breakfast pizza ever.
Yeah.
And
Haven't had it yet.
he has a couple other stores that I'm not going to mention because trolls will try to.
Right. The only reason I asked is I wanted to ask you about how you feel about what the governor is leaning towards with the alcohol from.
Right.
banning.
I think it's a feel-good move only. Business owners have already purchased that, and unless they return it to the vendors and the vendors return it to the manufacturers, and it keeps going down the line, so that the money's felt where it originates, it really doesn't do much except for be a symbolic gesture.
Right. Yeah. Like virtue signaling at that point.
Sort of. Yeah. And you asked me about cancel culture earlier. Obviously, people have tried to do that to me, and I hate it. Mm-hmm. But my position, and it might be a little hypocritical, is that I'm not going to unilaterally disarm either.
Right.
So the left started it. If it's good enough for them, I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. I guess moving forward, I mean, where would you like to see some of our mainstream media go? Would you like to see changes happen there? I mean, how would we propose changes in our mainstream media? Do you
Honesty might work.
Yeah, and just not, and being curious, asking the questions. Just because, it's Janet Mills or Dr. Shaw, and you seem to have a preference for them, ask them hard questions.
Yeah.
Don't let them off the hook.
Even if it's on the flip side, even if it's like LePage and there's media that like him.
Right.
Always ask the hard questions.
Right. And in fact, LePage made a post about the vodka, the Russian alcohol, and I said, symbolic. I don't mind.
I commented on that post.
Yeah, I said it's just a symbolic gesture.
Yeah.
It really doesn't do any good.
I don't think so either. But
If anything, it just hurts. Because if it's a ban, then you're not voluntarily taking it down. It's just going to hurt the fact that you can't sell it.
Right. And I think a lot of them come from Latvia, but I do think there is down the line some Russian ownership, and that's where it's very murky with the way they own companies and have,
right,
sub companies.
I think if they're going to do something, it would be to stop the actual importing of that.
Exactly.
And not just take it down, but stop importing it from there itself.
Right.
Instead of just making the the consumers and the people that are selling it suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
And you had asked down the line, when I can have a few minutes breather in my schedule, because this is way past my bedtime. I get up at 4 every day because that's my time. I do.
What time I get up?
That's when I get a lot of my work done,
Quiet
and
time.
I set up my day, and I look for
kid's
stories that are broken or need to be told. And
Well, it's first thing in the morning. That's when people are breaking stuff usually. So I would think.
yeah, I just like to make a list of things that have happened, things that we need to talk about, and that's the other thing. We have conversations, with people back and forth, even through the comments.
Yeah, we were talking about this, about how you were saying that you talk back to your base essentially on Facebook.
Well, yeah, because this isn't just mine. This is theirs. This is what they, want to know. And I wish I could get to every single thing that the people think are important.
Yep.
And if I could get some more writers that I trust, and a few people have, their schedules are busy too. So we'll try to, work around that. It's not like you have to do, this many in this amount of time.
Like a quota.
But what I would like to do is get the Maine Journal news page and get some advertisers on there. So I think since I started, I believe I've got about $600 in donations, which
Oh wow.
It's a good amount, but it doesn't come close to covering the out-of-pocket money that I've spent myself.
Well, see, and that's the big difference too. You one thing I've noticed about people that are truly reporting the news, they're not making what they're worth. Like they're bringing you the high quality news, and it's at a very cheap price, and it should be the other way around. I mean, the mainstream media essentially robs everything and pays their reporters crazy money to essentially write stuff that's pre-written for them already.
But we have local media reporters who come to our page.
Oh, I would have.
And they message people who comment there for their own story.
Now that's funny.
Yeah.
But I think it's great how.
We're not real news,
Well,
my detractors, are quick to point out that it's not real news.
Well, see, this is one thing I will say to your critics. One thing I have noticed with you guys is there's stories where you have been right, and then 3, 4, 5 months later, guess what they're reporting? Everything you were talking about. And they act like it is the biggest breaking thing in the world. And it's like, Ronda was just telling us about this.
Well, when Janet Mills on August 12th announced the vaccine mandates, we actually looked down the line to see what the unintended consequences were.
Would be.
And now, 4 or 5 months later,
Right.
the other people are circling back because they're seeing
What's happening?
what's happening.
Like what you were saying, if they knew what they knew now.
Yeah, she said, I think her quote was, "This will ensure the highest quality health care in the state of Maine."
Anyone that knows how that works, you can't just mandate something and then have it turn out rosy at the end.
Well, something's not working. I mean, nursing homes are closing, like quite a few. Mm-hmm. And I know they're struggling to find people to fill, even though they're paying crazy amounts of money for travel nurses right now.
Yeah, they're actually trying to limit that as well because
Are
they're
they?
making so much money. There's, I think, bills that I think I saw in the Maine legislature that is trying to limit how much.
Now, with the COVID stuff, are they being taxed on their earnings? Do you know?
I would think so.
I'm not sure if it
As an income.
I think in the very beginning there was some incentives. I don't know. I have to look more into it. Remembering something in the back of my head.
They weren't taxed at like the first
couple months or something.
say like 10,000 or something.
It may have been something like that.
I don't know. But I will admit, so I don't go to your site very often, but I do go on other websites, and I hate the paywall that they have up there.
Yeah.
So I respect and like the fact that I can look on your website, and maybe it's a detriment to you, but I can look on your website and actually get what I'm looking at without having to be asked to pay, for a monthly subscription.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
Well,
Like
again,
I said, it might be a detriment to you.
No,
but
Well, moving into the future, I mean, there could be. You could do a paywall
I would
side
never
of-
do a.
No.
I would never do a knock up. I mean, I never say never, but
Right.
I have no plans to ever make it a paywall.
I think your outlook with trying to get sponsors, I think would probably be the best way to go.
Right.
Definitely.
Sponsors, donations, things like that.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a PayPal or anything set up for people?
Yeah.
that
Where
want to
can
donate?
people send money to?
Well, good question. I don't remember the PayPal, but it's linked on the top of the Maine Journal News page on Facebook, and I think Venmo is at MJN207, and I think I put it at the bottom of most articles.
Because it doesn't. It's not much, but if enough people donate $20, $30, then it adds up.
It does, and like
Yeah. So if you guys go on to Maine Journal News Facebook, it's pinned right at the top. So
right.
Nice.
yeah, can't beat that. Go donate some.
And I
money
send
to 'em.
thank yous to every single person.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
My mama taught me right.
Well, one thing I learned about when I was out campaigning, and this is something in case I ever decide to run again, I haven't ruled it out, but I took notes down of like things I remember about people, like certain like family members, like so I can ask, "How's your wife?" Or like when I sent my thank you notes, I said, "It was nice bringing your dog." I usually brought treats with me, and I wrote down their dog's name, and it's like I sent a nice note saying it was nice to see your dog or something along the lines of that. But it made it more personal is my point.
People like personal connections. They
And
like to know that people are paying attention to them.
and they care. And you guys definitely have a good...
And I do care, and that was, one of the stories, that I covered since last June with the roofing contractor.
That's been a big story that just you were covering it
I was covering
way
it
before.
Yeah, what happened is a friend of mine called me because he knew I had a legal background. He goes, "I just got sued by Hammond Lumber." And I said, "For what?" He goes, "Unjust enrichment." I go, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I had this guy do work on my house, and they're saying they didn't get paid for the materials, so now they're coming after me." And I explained what he needed to do to prove that he wasn't unjustly enriched, and he was able to get himself dismissed from it. So then other people started.
Was that the roofing story?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, see, the crazy part is they're the ones that did our roof, my house roof, all right? And there's a little bit of a crazy story here.
But you must have got it done early on, right?
It was before everything broke, but it was weird because he came out, did the thing, and this was before I had gotten to my dad and talked to him about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
He'd already given him like 15% of the money. But the only thing I think that saved my father is we paid for the materials. And so anyways, when he showed up, the first thing I did is I took the insurance that covers them in case they get hurt, and I called it. It was no good.
No.
He came back with another guy. His was good. So they ended up using his to work on the roof. But
Was it someplace out of Colorado that the
to be
insurance
honest with you, after everything broke, I wish I would have taken a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure if I dug in the phone bill somewhere, I could probably find exactly where it was. I'm pretty sure I got the time nailed down when we made that call, so I could probably find out.
So yeah, I followed that all the way along. I went to the court dates, and because people were interested in knowing what happened, and
I was curious.
Well,
I kept watching.
And the people that called me on the phone, the woman whose husband had a stroke and she could really use the money. I mean, I was almost in tears talking to these people, and that's one of the things I want to do with Maine Journal News is to help people,
Right.
and try to. I mean, I think the grand jury indicted for $115,000.
Wow.
But there was like way more than that was taken, I would imagine.
Well, I don't know that everybody may have reached out. It was originally
That's what
some separate Kennebec County cases, and then there were ended up being so many, the Kennebec County sheriffs, that they sent it up to
Combined
the
in some of
AG
them or something.
Wow.
and now the AG is prosecuting it, and now those others that were Kennebec County are being rolled up into the AG
Oh wow,
case as well.
it's a horrible situation all the way around. I mean, I definitely feel for the elderly that were taking advantage.
You wouldn't believe.
Anyone.
Yeah, the older folks, the disabled folks.
And one thing that this was precise. I mean, if you look at the people that it was taken from, he has kind of an MO on who he was targeting. Like he was looking for like the more vulnerable elderly.
Yeah, I don't know one way or another.
It's something I noticed.
Yeah,
It's just it seemed to be
there
more,
were a lot of elderly folks.
seemed to be more elderly.
Those
that
could
were
have
more
been the ones that
they seemed more trusting is what I'm trying to get at.
they also could have been the ones that were more vocal.
Yeah.
So
Like you were
so
saying,
it
that
just
could have been way.
seems
Yeah.
like
Like
Well,
you were saying.
there's
actually,
more of
their
them.
their
could have
their
been more
family
cases.
members and sons and
That makes
those
sense.
sort of people reached out.
Well, it's like my grandfather years ago. He got ripped off on. I don't remember what the story was, but he got ripped off $2,000, and the family knew, but he never reported it. He was too ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
So I could imagine that could have happened too. So
Yeah.
Well, he blames me.
yeah, I've noticed. I've noticed
for
that.
everything.
I said
It's all my
something.
fault.
Yeah, I said something along the lines. I pray he gets the help that he needs, and he deserves to have his fingers bleed until it's paid back. And he messaged me at like 1:30 in the morning.
Anybody that comments
I'm like, oh
on
jeez.
my posts or whatever, or share
Right
my
there.
post, he's right there to send the
Yeah.
message.
And I don't think
you have to be
it
like the
wasn't-
20th
yeah.
person.
It
that's
wasn't under
told me
his
that.
name.
Wow.
I don't remember the name it was under, but yeah, he wasn't using his regular name. But yeah, because it threw me off at first. I was like, what do you, because when I first got the message, I was like, what? What do you, and then it started clicking. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I know who this is.
And I don't think, you can understand somebody that's a new businessman and doesn't know the ins and outs of scheduling and that
Right.
sort of thing. But so many people, and I have so many messages from people where he's telling them, I will be there on this day.
Yeah.
And they
Well, that's
they-
what I
they
was
don't.
going to get into telling the story about my dad is he said that they were going to come on a start date.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they ended up taking, I want to say 3.5 weeks after that start date,
Mm-hmm.
but he kept coming up with reasons why he couldn't come.
Right.
But yeah, it ended up being foreign nationals who ended up doing the roof because they
he would sub out.
Yeah, it was definitely subbed to another contractor.
And it's hard because I've run a business, not the Play Factory, but another business in IT, where sometimes you have to rob Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
Because that's just how the money comes in, especially when it's like large sums of money, kind of like what he would have. Because I would have
But
something similar.
To
but-
progressively do it after you've known that
Right.
you've
Yep, right.
hurt
That's
someone.
the thing is you need
See
to.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see-
Normally, you would just use some of that money and start at least being a man of your word and showing up on the day that
Right.
you say you're going to show up.
Right, making sure it was being replaced. Like, it's when you start robbing Peter to pay Paul and not paying Paul back at all.
Yeah.
I
Right,
guess
you gotta at
that's
least
the
pay-
issue.
You got to at least pay Paul if you're going to rob
Rob
Peter.
Right? Yeah.
Not just rob Peter and Paul.
Well, yeah, the IOU note don't work very well.
No.
No.
But,
All right, so we're going to start winding down. Tell people where they can find you. I know most people probably already know. But
They can find us on Facebook at Maine Journal News and www.mainejournalnews.com.
Okay.
And I think I don't use Twitter very much, but I'm on Twitter too at journal_Maine.
Okay.
okay. I don't use Twitter very much either.
I can't
I
keep
watch
up
video-
with all the social
I-
media
There's just so much
platforms.
stuff.
Yeah,
I
know.
need a
Twitter.
social media manager.
I think I watch videos on Twitter. That's about it. I think that's all I use it for.
I use them all because I do
Right.
social media for people. So, all
Let's
But,
talk.
right.
Definitely. I guess we can wind it down. I'm Sean Karen.
And I'm Jeremy Lezot.
Ronda Snyder. Thank you guys for
This
having
is a
me.
shared studio broadcast.
Until next time, remember, true patriot questions